What's up guys, Crean here from LogicLounge.com. Yesterday was Google's big Nexus event where they debuted 2 new flagship phones in the Nexus lineup. Before I share my in-depth thoughts into these phones, let's go over a quick spec list of these phones. So you have the 6P and the 5X, the 6P being the tiny bit more expensive, more flagship phone than the 5X, which is meant to be the least expensive in the series. So let's start with the 6P first. It has a Qualcomm 2 GHz, 8-core Snapdragon processor, which is due to be very powerful on the brand new Android 6.0 Marshmallow operating system that will ship with the phones, and I think overall provides a little bit faster service in the Android OS lineup. It has a 4K camera, runs on the Adreno 430 GPU, has a 5.7-inch WQHD AMOLED display, so it's due to be very bright and very vibrant as well. It has a USB Type-C connector. Yes, USB Type-C, it's that reversible universal connector that everybody seems to be going to except for one company. It has a 3,450 milliamp hour battery, which is due to give you, I think they said around 7 to 10 hours of battery life, 3 gigabytes of RAM, and it is all wrapped up in a nice aluminum body. As for the 5X, it has pretty similar statistics there. It has a 1.8 gigahertz processor, only 6 cores though, an Adreno 418 GPU, so just slightly less pretty much on everything. Still has a 4K camera on it. It's only 5.2 inch and it's a full HD display. It's not AMOLED or anything like that, so it's still due to be very bright and very good, but just a little bit less than that AMOLED display. USB Type-C, once again, only a 27,000 or 2,700 milliamp hour battery. Ooh, 27,000 milliamp hour battery. That would be great on the battery life. 2 gigabytes of RAM only, and a polycarbonate body, so it's a little bit more plasticky than the 6P. Both are compatible on Project Fi, which is Google's low-cost cell phone service, and both are coming with a new feature that you can add on to the phone called Nexus Protect. This allows you to have a service contract basically with the phone so that if it ever breaks, it will be replaced, something like Apple Care. And that will be $89 for the 6P and $69 for the 5X. Overall though, both of these phones are due to be Google's best phones ever. They look very nice, even though they're large displays, they're relatively thin and light. The aluminum body is very strong, and what I've heard people say is that there is a little bit of a lip at the top of the 6P where the camera is, and a lot of people are very worried about that. But once you get it in your hand and you start holding it, you really don't notice that slight bump at the top where the camera is, which I think is fine for me. As for the 5X, it does have a little bit more of a plasticky feel for the people who don't want to pay as much for their phones. These are due to be, like I said, some of the best phones out there when it comes to Android. Android is pretty much all over the place. You have lots of different companies creating lots of different Android-based phones, some good, some not so good. Although, whenever I try to choose an Android phone or recommend an Android phone, I usually will recommend the Nexus series. They are due to have pure Nexus experience, none of the bloatware that a lot of the companies provide on the phones, and Android 6.0 is very, very good at doing what it does. That's being a mobile operating system. A lot of the applications that you have on there are now lighter, less resource intensive, not as many applications now coming pre-installed on them as well, and you just have an overall nice, quick, snappy feel. Now, I've played with devices with Android 6.0 on them, and I have actually had a very good experience with them, as it's been fast, snappy, everything is pretty much good to go when you're browsing around on Android 6.0, which I'm very thankful for. If you're looking to get any type of Android phone, I would go with the Nexus series, just because I know that it's pure Android, and Google doesn't have a track record of bloating out their phones like most other companies do. Now, it's not all about the phone itself, which it is a big part of it. I do want a good, sturdy phone. I want a phone that can last me and go with me everywhere, not some plasticky, cheap phone, but it's also about the app store in it. Now, while Android's app store has tons of applications in them, they're not as high quality as some other app stores out there, iPhone, but that's beside the point. There are apps out there that I think are great and fantastic for the phone, apps that aren't even on the iPhone that I think are fantastic, and you can find workarounds for pretty much anything. It has a great app store, and with the Nexus phones, you can pretty much guarantee that it's gonna be compatible with that phone. Because that's another thing with the Android store too. You have to look at compatibility with apps on your devices. So hopefully all of those things will be settled out there. If you're looking to get an Android phone or upgrading your Android phone, I would definitely look at either the 6P or the 5X, depending on how much money you want to spend. Personally, I would get a 6P in probably the 64 gigabyte-ish flavor, as 32 and 16 gigabyte phones just don't cut it anymore. And there was one kind of sub announcement in there, but it's very thin, and that's the new Android Pixel C, or the Pixel C, which is their tablet-y type laptop device. I call it a tablet-y type laptop device as it has a keyboard, but you can use it as a tablet as well. Much like the Pixel that is already available from Google, it will run on Android rather than Chrome OS, which is a new thing for them. It has a 10.2-inch display, USB Type-C again, runs on NVIDIA Tegra X1 processor, which is a very fast processor. It's in their little handheld gaming devices, and 3 gigabytes of RAM, and it's $499 plus $149 for the keyboard itself. So if you're looking to get a tablet, maybe look into the Pixel. If you're looking into these phones, the 6P is $499 and the 5X is $379, if I haven't already mentioned those prices. And they're due to be probably the best Android phones out there, above the OnePlus 2, above any of those flagship phones from like all the other companies out there. There's tons of companies out there that make Android phones, but Google is one of the companies that I think I would trust to have an Android phone out of everybody else out there. That's just my opinion, of course. You, of course, can leave your opinions in the comments section down below, along with your like on this video, as well as even maybe a subscribe on this video as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Creighton Miller, and I'll see you guys in our next video.